Cut the dang music. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing great. Happy Saturday. It's finally summer here. Pittsburgh does this. It's like in April, where you would think it's spring, it's pretty much crappy fall. Like it's just chilly and crappy and a little bit rainy. May, which is supposed to be like spring, summer-ish weather, it's like some days are 70 and other days are 50 and other days are raining and other days are dark and cloudy. And then it just shifts sometime in like June to summer. That's it. We don't have a spring. We just don't have one. So we made the shift to summer and, we're finally here after fucking just a brutal winter and waiting. This is why people snowbird. And the moment that me and Jill can do it, it really has to do with her kids and some pending shit that's going on in her life. We're going to be in Florida for 6 months, which will be like the winter time in Pittsburgh. And then we'll be back in Pittsburgh for the summer. And maybe we'll end up somewhere else besides Pittsburgh. Who knows? But that's just the breaks, brother. I mean, if you can manage to live in summer all year round, why wouldn't you? People go like, oh, like it's a badge of honor, a trophy that you live in the Northeast or you live somewhere where it's cold. Hey, we're going to put up with it. Who wants to? It's not. It's actually a dumb idea. If you can afford it and you can make it happen, live somewhere tropical, you've got to do it, brothers. All right, let's talk about high dosing TRT. Again, I want people to understand that there are many different things that you can do when the shit you're doing with TRT is failing you. You know, you've done the daily injections. They're failing you. You've gone down to 115 a week. Okay, erections work, libido hit or miss, but your anabolism sucks. You've tried AIs. You've tried DHT derivatives. You cannot dial them in. You're going to have to at that point, if you truly want to get the max benefit from TRT and dial in, just go back to what we know works. You know, and in a lot of these cases, like, again, I'm the guy that gets people that have tried everything dialing in on TRT, you know, and so we can dial in. Maybe we move to prop, maybe we move to cream. You know, maybe we do somewhat of a low dose of cypionate or NNT with like a hybrid of cream on top. But in some cases, in a lot of them, we just go back to what we know works. What gives the guys on the forums the most libido. What truly does give you both the sexual function, if you can dial it in correctly, and the anabolism and energy, like all day energy, man. And that's high dosing test, but it's giving your body a damn break in between. People often forget that when you're doing these very frequent injections of testosterone, number one, you're a lot more likely to get central nervous system adaptation to that. So this is why you might do that. You change your dose on your everyday protocol and things seem good, and then they go south again. Central nervous system adaptation. My years in nootropics taught me that this happens. We couldn't have a guy on the same stack consistently. We had to change it up. We had to vary the doses. Then they would start responding to shit again. And then they could go back to the stack that, you know, they tried to do every day and then it eventually stopped working and then it works again. Central nervous system, dopamine adaptation. At the same time you do these daily injections, you crush your sex hormone binding globulin into the ground. And guess what that means? Yes, you get more free tests, but guess what it also means? You clear hormones faster from your system with like SHBG that cannot rise and is just constantly being pushed down. It makes you clear androgens faster. So that's another reason on daily injections you're like, what the hell's going on? It's like the bloods look okay and I'm not feeling this. You know, it's like I'm not on TRT minus a little bit of extra anabolism and some better energy. Other than that, the sexual function just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Yeah, you're injecting too frequently. The bizarre part for me is like watching other TRT people discuss daily injections. Because again, they just subscribe to like the ease of use theory and the diurnal rhythm theory, which is wrong. You know, your testosterone is pulsatile in diurnal rhythm, your natural production. And it just makes me think that they don't actually deal with enough people to see this. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Right? It bothers me that people just use like bloods as a surrogate for success. Oh, well, you're at 1,000 and estrogen's at 35. Should be good. Should be. Sometimes you need more androgens at once, and you need a break in between. SHBG can actually rise, transport androgens to tissues. It's a delivery protein. No central nervous system adaptation when you have large gaps in between your injections. And then you can effectively get the benefits from TRT. On top of which is anabolism. I mean, holy shit. When you change to, even if you're doing 150, 170, and you're doing daily injections, you take that 170 and you inject it either once every 7 days or once every 5 days. Too much different you're going to physically look with that massive peak in androgens. And your body's going to maintain that. Your body maintains it. It's incredible. It's a big difference at the same dose. So if you get a much bigger difference in anabolism at the same dose, just doing it less frequently, imagine what happens to your sexual function too. That's going to change. Your libido should be high. Very, very high. Very, very high. Erections should be great as well. I don't know if my chat's broken, but are you guys asking questions here? If you got questions, post them, my brothers. Let's get a discussion going. Let me just fix the chat on my side because I lost it. Bing. Glarzubit. All right, there we go. We're golden. We're golden. Now, regarding the high dosing of test, libido always follows high doses less frequently. Okay. That's one of the golden rules that has taken me years to learn and a lot of observation of coaching situations. Libido follows high dosing of test that is done infrequently. Libido is driven by those surges, the surges in hormones, not a flat line, where you're just completely adapted to the state that you're in and you have no dopamine contrast at all. None. How much of a problem is that? It's a huge problem, right? And I'm not saying everybody should inject infrequently. Some people can do every other day. I can do that, right? But it has to be enough androgens, right? The estrogen's got to fall around 35, 40. That's where mine is. But it's just not the case for a lot of people. You have to think about the fact that your body just may prefer different kinetics in testosterone. Your body may prefer it. Your body might like going up to 16, 1700 after an injection and then down to 800 or 900. In that case, estrogen troughs. So you don't get constant saturation of estrogen, right? If we can't look at the blood and say, oh, that's where estrogen is at tissues, fine. Point understood. It also means that the tissues matter. The tissues matter, right? That's what we're trying to highlight when people say that. And constant exposure at the tissues, especially of estradiol, is where you get erection problems and libido problems and typically sensation problems as well. None of it is good. All right, let's get the questions. Those of you that are in here, if you got questions, post them. Let's chat it out. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer. What's the dose equivalent of 70 milligrams of test SIP converted to E? Slightly less. I'd say about 60 milligrams. Yeah, there's a rule of thumb that I've seen people repeat that I generally agree with when it comes to cypionate versus enanthate. And that rule of thumb is with cypionate, it's better, much more spread out and higher doses every 5 days, every 7 days. Now, this isn't universally applicable. Again, people can do every other day if it works for you. But generally, it's better 5 to 7 days with cypionate. But with enanthate, 4 to 5 days. Right, 4 to 5 days. Because enanthate peaks a little quicker, leaves the system a little quicker, right? So the kinetics are actually different. Enanthate is not close to prop, but it's closer to testosterone propionate than, fucking testosterone cypionate is. So it'd be about 60 milligrams. That's what I would suggest you try running on that situation there. My chat is broken again. Don't know why, brothers. I'll try to fix it one more time, and we'll get to some more questions. Stick with me, brotherinos. Don't go anywhere. This is going to get gnarly. I wonder why that's doing that. Man. All right, summer's finally here. Yeah, bro. From Maine. Oh, Yeah, see, like that there, dude. I mean, isn't it freezing all the fucking time up there? That would, at least in Pittsburgh, it's only freezing 6 months of the year and snowy and shitty and all that. At least that, like this here though, Maine. I mean, you guys get summers, but I think it's brutally cold up there. What type of rare outliers find success employing the failsafe protocol? Just people that cannot dial in otherwise. I mean, those people can do infrequent injections of larger amounts and probably dial in, especially if they have the right guidance. Like I can dial anybody in. It just takes time. By the way, 3 and 6 month coaching is 50% off. The code is in the description. We run those once a year. But, an alternative to infrequent injections is to actually do frequent injections, but at a lower dose. That seems to work. It's like when you get in the 120, 130, 140, 150, the frequent injections are not good for people, right? It's too much overlap of everything. But, if you're down there at 105, 14 milligrams a day with some HCG every day, like it tends to work a lot better. You end up in the right ratios. The only thing people are generally missing down there is anabolism. They're really just kind of missing that. So cycles of Anavar are usually useful. Primobolan, if it doesn't tank your estradiol and you can tolerate it. Masteron the same, But I mean, I really think folks that are having trouble dialing in and are thinking about going down there, fine, do it. But after that, just go do TRT in the way that everybody's telling you not to do. You have to look at that. Why is everyone saying don't inject once a week? To me, the pattern seems clear. It's just like keto and carnivore. These guys want to be antithetical to what's normal. They want to seem important. And they want to say, here, we have some neatly placed logic, which doesn't pan out in reality a lot of times because it sounds good. Here, just do this. We want to be contrarian. Everyone else is doing it too. I also think that some men who are TRT coaches lack the gall to be an individual. You know what I mean? They're just going along with whatever. They'll never dissuade people from following the advice of their mentors. God forbid. You think for your fucking self. Yet you call yourself a man. It's just ridiculous, dude. I've always been the type that I don't care about any ideology. I care about what works, and that's all. That's all. So I'm definitely going to refute the idea that daily injections are for everyone because I have seen it to be the case that they are not. Not for everyone. Megatron Nemo, if injecting every 5th day is a good sweet spot on cypionate, yeah, I think every 4th day, every 4 to 5 days is a good spot for testy. Yep. Yeah, you get this is what you're trying to replicate, that sufficient peak and trough, right? To where then SHBG doesn't constantly get crushed. You can adequately transport your hormones, deliver them to the tissues where they belong. And it's like you don't get an adaptation to your testosterone doing infrequent injections as you do on daily injections. This whole idea of overlap on daily, this is the thing that bothers me the most. If you take a human body that was never designed for some pharmacology, like some like in this case testosterone kinetics, and you expose that human's body to something it was never designed to do and had not become accustomed to, where it had actually become accustomed to, in this case, pulsatile testosterone from pulsatile luteinizing hormone release. What do you think happens? Shit goes south. Shit goes south. Again, to me, it's very clear because, and maybe this is where I have the advantage. I consulted executives on nootropics for 15 years. So, and I got to understand neurobiology from the perspective of like a fucking neuroscientist. I'd read countless studies on everything, not just neuroscience, but the nootropics I was, having people use. So I got to see CNS adaptation, like the frequent use of the same thing, land people in a place where the effects were diminished. So to me, it's just obvious. that infrequent injections for select individuals end up working better. They just do. Any way to help avoid prostate enlargement over time? As far as the literature actually clearly tells us, that's estrogen driven. So if you can manage to have a trough on estradiol or keep estradiol relatively reasonable, close to top of range, slightly above, slightly below, you'll be fine. Either one of those work. You can still peak at 65 estradiol as long as you trough back down and you're not consistently exposed to it. You know? Like, it makes no sense to have someone constantly exposed to androgens and then constantly exposed to estradiol. It'd be the same thing as constantly exposing them to androgens, like, say, a non-aromatizable androgen, and then taking estradiol valerate every day or every other day. It's constant exposure. It will not work. It will not work. Estrogen is the driver of the prostate problems on TRT, not DHT. Again, you know, the studies show us that DHT is made in its own independent quantity in the prostate, which is not driven by the amount of DHT that's available or the blood level of DHT. It does its own thing. Hey, brother, how often should I inject prop and at what dose? Can't tell you. Added VAR and the sex drive came back out of the blue. Well, that's weird. Wonder why it did that. VAR usually never really influences it much, but could have just freed up some hormones. I would wager it's temporary, and I know that's bad news. Testosterone propionate is, for some people at lower end doses, best dose daily, and that's like 15 to 25 milligrams. However, the same principles apply to that. If that doesn't work for you, you've got to inject more of it at once and take a 2 to 3 day break in between, so that you can peak at 1600 and trough down to 900. You know? So, like, you're really looking at, in the case of, they call it every third day, somewhere around 80 to 90 milligrams of test prop every third day for like an infrequent injection protocol. Now, you could also spread that out so long as you stay physiologic throughout the effect duration window and you feel okay, by doing something like 100 milligrams every fourth day, 120, 140 milligrams every fourth day. I wouldn't spread it out any further than that because the troughs are pretty miserable, because it just kind of leaves your system really quick. And there's a point at which it's just going to do that. Heads up, need to update the source list. Got burned. You probably didn't. You probably just aren't waiting long enough. I mean, you're purchasing stuff from overseas, and those guys sometimes get swamped and get back ordered. If it's Hunter, which is probably what you're referring to, that guy's always swamped and back ordered. You know, that's why there's many options on there. Don't put that shit on the chat either. Like, what are you thinking, man? Opinions on a 0.5 ml of Sustanon 250. By the way, I mean, I just got HCG from Sourceless. I just got way more tests, like fucking 5 vials of Cypionate from Sourceless. You know, everything's there. But, you know, like DHT as an example, I mean, I've had that take 2 months to get to me. It's coming from overseas, has to go through customs, all that stuff. A 0.5 ml of Sustanon 250 every 5 days. So what would that be? 125 milligrams? It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Now, it'll leave quicker because, like, some of those esters are fast-acting esters. So you might be looking at every fourth day better for Sustanon. Libido driven by surges, but the surges also drive erythropoiesis. Hematocrit is 52 even before TRT. Well, that's your biggest problem. Why? How is that? I mean, unless you live in Colorado, dude, that's not good. That's something that you need to look at otherwise. Like, this is a very clear case of your body is making too much, you know, red blood cells without TRT. You're above range without TRT. So you need to look at why that is. Not drinking enough water, not doing enough cardio, generally not healthy, or genetic limitation, which you need to try to look at hacking, biohacking, if you're going to actually even consider TRT. If you have a hematocrit problem prior to androgens, I don't think androgens are a good idea. Can't talk about sources here. Thank you, brother. Big Z's moving to Florida this year. Dude, fucking good on you, dude. Good on you. Good on you. It's a wonderful state. You know, there's a lot of freedom down there. There's less taxes. You know, people are generally happier. I mean, you're around people who are in endless summer, right? It's such a different vibe. This is one of the things I've always hated about the Northeast, you know, Philly area and even South Jersey where I grew up and Pittsburgh now. People are Scroogey, man. And of course they are, because every 6 months they have seasonal fucking depression disorder. Because it's 13 degrees outside and they can't live their lives. Because of that or 2 feet of snow. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There's no question. There's zero question. I'll be in Florida. I will be in Florida, either doing snowboarding or permanently, but snowboarding first. Me and Jill are going to be there for the winter. Having a great time. Working, doing our thing. Hustling, you know, continuing to create like our wealth, but we're going to be going to the beach. We're going to be living, you know, we're going to be doing morning jogs in 75 degree weather. It's such a beautiful thing. Took a random 25 milligram tablet of Proviron the other day and felt a lot of anxiety and stimulation. My thoughts are that you can't just randomly take Proviron and couch the symptoms you get as what will happen when you take Proviron. Your body's going to need time to adjust to that stuff. You know, also in the context of the rest of your protocol, you know, what is the rest of the protocol? You have to think about that. It's already like too androgenic and you don't need any more Proviron. You don't need any more androgens. And that's probably why. At the same time, your body may need time to adjust. Proviron is instant androgens and it's one of the purest androgens you can take. It's not really anabolic at all, you know, a little bit. It's mostly just androgenic. So, you know, when you're getting dopamine surges and more energy production and more androgen receptor activation when you take that stuff. So, you know, that's kind of why. It maybe did that to me the first couple times I took it. Then I got used to it and it was awesome. Michael, ask for sources again and I'll ban you. How high can most guys go on test cream with once a day application in milligrams with a low amount of HCG? It depends on the concentration of test cream. I don't know why you're not asking that. What do you mean test cream? There's 100 milligram cream and there's 200 milligram cream. You guys have to bring the nuance to yourself. Definitely on the stream, but to yourself. I don't know what cream you're talking about, man. If it's 200 milligram cream, 4 clicks is probably the highest I would go. You know, you could do it 2 and 2 split if you happen to respond to that, which a lot of people don't. Great, you know, but a 3 and 1 split or a 3 in the morning is usually better. On the 100 milligram cream, 6, 7 clicks, but you know it's cumbersome. It's a lot of cream. You know, I did well with high dose HCG and 5 clicks of that cream on the scrotum, the 100 milligram cream, and 330 IU of HCG every day. There, everything was in order. Erections especially were fucking insane. But the anabolism wasn't the greatest, you know. To be where I want to be, where I'm at now, I feel really, really good anabolically. Like I have to use a little Anavar on top of that. Ryan, every time I get a good PFS protocol, yeah, right. Yeah, this is again, this is a guy. Hold on one second here. This is a guy that is extremely busy and puts, hey, I'm backlogged on the website. You need to look for those kind of things. But this isn't the kind of thing you should be putting in chat. So you are in timeout. Don't put that kind of shit in chat, man. You know, use your brain a little bit, dude. All right. There was a question that we were at that I don't remember. All right. Every time I get a good PFS protocol going and symptoms are relieved, it lasts 12 to 36 hours. Then an anxiety drop off and wears off. So you have anxiety with it and then the anxiety drops off and then the symptoms wear off. Bloods look good and tried some infrequent pins. For how long? For how long? You need to do nothing for 6 weeks and run 100 to 120 every 5th day. And if that fails you, meaning you need more of the libido and erections, then you need to move to 150 every 5th day. If that fails you, you can move up to 180 or 200 every fifth day, but probably better to do like 200 once a week. Yeah. A little bit of HCG on injection, maybe some HCG in between. But I wouldn't, in these infrequent injection protocols, you don't want to be continuously blasting HCG. You're just contributing to the estrogen burden, and you're causing somewhat more of a steady state than you want. I mean, the whole idea is spreading out the injection so that you can actually let your testosterone work. Let the testosterone work. Cypionates, it's a long-acting ester. People say they feel crappy on trough. It means you're not injecting enough. You're not injecting enough. In the last 3 weeks, I moved to 150 every fifth day. On day 4, there's a period at which I feel a little bit less than optimal, and then more seems to release from the depot or something, and then I feel fine. Even on day 5, I wake up feeling fine. So I go 5 whole days without an injection, but I put 150 in, on that previous injection. It lasts the entire time. That's what long esters do. And the funny thing is like, I don't get acne like I used to in the beginning. A lot of the crappy side effects, they just go away. I don't get overstimulation. I don't get insomnia. I just get insane pumps at the gym. I feel great. And my libido is fucking crazy. Best way to reach out via consultation? Yeah, just via email. If you have questions, ryan@livecortex.com. Monk, after pitting 250 of Sustanon, how should one manage E2? Well, what I would try doing first is not managing the E2. And yes, 50 milligrams of Sustanon every other day is likely just to leave you too steady state, and you will adapt to that and really not have great libido or erection quality. Again, saturation of estrogen at the tissues consistently is not good for your dick. What I would try first before trying to manage estradiol is try to find an infrequent injection frequency protocol that you don't have to manage estrogen with. The people doing 200 a week that have great libido don't have to manage estrogen because they get a trough. They peak at 16, 1700, they drop down to 800, 900. So the estrogen does fluctuate, and it's over range some of the time, but it's not constantly exposing you to estradiol at ERB, estrogen receptor alpha, at the penis. Yeah, right? That's where you get this inhibition of base erection quality. So if I were you, I would just try sticking with that once a week. And then determine, do I need to either lower that 250 or raise it? You probably need to lower it if it doesn't work out. Yeah, I wouldn't run this right away. I wouldn't. Mike, for PFS or PSSD recovery, is it safer to keep total testosterone on 800 to 1,000 rather than above 300 to avoid heart and body stress? Well, you're not going to cause heart stress by 1,300 or above. Body stress, again, that is related to your current state. A lot of the PFS folks have been starved of neurosteroids and DHT, which has a profound effect on the brain. So they're in an anxiety susceptible state, right? It will go away over time with the right balance of hormones. And no, I don't think it's a good idea necessarily. That's not a rule of thumb to stay between 800 and 1,000 with PFS or PSSD. I have a guy peaks at, he's doing twice a week. What is he doing? He peaks very high, and he's got PFS, but he's got to take a anastrozole because he over aromatizes crazily, and that hasn't resolved in his body yet. It just means the 5-alpha reductase enzymes are not as functional, so he needs more testosterone and then estrogen control to dial in. So no, it's not safer. The 1,300 total test or peaking to 1,600 if you have a trough is not taxing on your heart at all. What would put you into the category of having to be minorly concerned about left ventricular problems would be 500 to 750 of test a week. A gram plus a week consistently, then you're looking at having those kinds of problems. Peaking at 1,600 and troughing at 1,000 is not a problem. Christopher has tried multiple doses and frequencies of testosterone cypionate. Switched to transcrotal cream and immediately felt a difference. Oh, yeah. I mean, the right dose of cream, you're going to feel fucking amazing. That's just for sure. Not always easy to dial in the sexual function. For some people, it's fucking really easy. It takes 3 weeks. For other people, they've got to modify doses, and they've got to find the right protocol that works. But with testosterone cypionate, if you couldn't dial in correctly, you are a better candidate for 200 milligrams a week, or 150 a week, or 100 to 150 every 5th day. Or just a better candidate for that, because you will feel 20 again on those. Again, I've moved to 150 every 5th day. This is a protocol that in the last 6 months has worked for like 30 clients. It's something I've never run, but I wanted extra anabolism, and I was like, yeah, let me give this a whirl and just kind of get some data from it. And I just feel young. I feel young now. Most TRT protocols, like, I feel generally pretty good, but I feel better now. Even my cardio is better. I run 20 minutes at the gym every day or every other day. I'm not out of breath. I don't feel tired. I then go lift weights usually after that, and I don't feel tired. By the time I get home after all that, yeah, I need to eat some yogurt and a banana, but then I'm fucking back to pep in my step. Brother! Pep in the step. Don't you want pep in your step? Brothers! All right, boys. Coaching right now is 50% off. All right. That code to get coaching 50% off is in the description of this video. That there is it's a one-time a year thing. So the last time we ran this was 10 months ago in August. We won't run it again until next summer, right? Probably the very beginning of the summer, or potentially next spring, probably like May or something, April, May. When a certain amount of slots book, I have to take it down because I'll just be booked out. But right now, 3 and 6 month programs are 50% off. You're saving thousands of dollars. This is the absolute opportune time to pull the trigger. If you book over the weekend, we start this week, dude. We're not starting in July. We're starting this week. And you can get on the path to fixing libido and erections and feeling amazing on TRT right away. Right away, brother. Megatron goes, yeah, things go well for a small window, then I have insane anxiety, have a drop-off of that anxiety, and things go lukewarm again. Almost feels like my body is rejecting it. I think you're just adjusting to it. That's pretty much all, which gives more credence to the idea that infrequent, larger amounts of testosterone are better for people in these situations. You'd just really be surprised at how many folks have tried the new agey stuff. And then they go on a protocol which, the whole internet is telling them is prehistoric. And it's like, they make you feel like you're an idiot for even thinking maybe I should do 200 a week or 400 every 2 weeks. But that shit works for people, dude. Like, it just works for some of those folks that can't dial in otherwise. In the end, I think the way that I look at it as a coach, which I would suggest people look at it as users, is I don't really care what I have to do. I don't care. If a guy responds to daily injections at 20 milligrams, I don't care. My job is to dial you in. I don't care about anything else. But, if that's failing and 250 every 10 days works, I don't care. Because my record matters, and the person that is, paying us money and we're diligently working with for 3 or 6 months matters. I want them to be better. I want them to function better. So sometimes you just have to inject less frequently. Forget everything you've heard on the web that is popular and go back to what we used to do. Giving yourself a break, letting SHBG not constantly be crushed, transport more androgens to tissues, have a similarly diurnal pulse of testosterone instead of a flat hormone exposure, next to no CNS adaptation, more dopamine surges, libido surges. And things like hematocrit are rarely a problem in those cases too, because you're not constantly exposed to androgens. A lot of what's said is backwards, and that's the other thing that makes me, contrarian to what is now like the new normal, because I just don't see it being real. I see it more often than not working out. So, yeah, I'm here to tell the truth, nothing else. Yeah, honestly, never tried a high dose once a week of test tape, and everything I've researched said to split the dose. Yeah, and this is the base of the problem. Let's just stop for a second. The real issue is that too many people they want to be agreeable. So the advice that they're giving on the web, the stuff they're parroting on Reddit, is agreeable with what is more popular. And what is more popular is daily injections. I felt that coming for like a minute. Damn, why did it take that long? So you have people that are unwilling to separate from the herd, separate from what's normal, i.e., the idea to inject every day, and that mimics our diurnal rhythm, and we want to stay steady, this whole steady state idea. Do you know that no studies actually prove that's effective? They only prove it's effective insofar as bloods, which we know are not the whole picture. So how can we even trust that? The daily sub-Q. Well, so comparable levels to IM. What is the user's experience? What is their libido like? How come we didn't record that and discuss that? Because that's what matters. You can be on any dose of TRT above 120 doing daily injections, and you will feel pretty good. But if you have no sex drive and your erections don't work, it's a failed protocol. It's a failed protocol. That's just it. That's just it, man. So, throughout my life, I've never been the type to go along with what is normal, or what is repeatedly regurgitated as like, this is how you do this, and if you don't, you're deviating. I'd rather deviate if the truth is over here in the deviation. That's where the truth lies. Yeah, I've been in a how do I want to say it? A non-judiciously chosen contrarian. I don't want to be, but I've been like that my whole life. And dude, I'm doing better than anyone I fucking know. Whether it goes all the way back to the entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurship groups I used to go to, who would think like I'm too extreme and all that. Like I'm successful. Those guys have jobs now. Everything normal is wrong. Everything popular is wrong. Right? That is a phrase by one of the most influential productivity people in our fucking history. His name's Tim Ferriss. Everything popular is wrong. It is true. Believe me. I live an extremely unorthodox life, and guess what? My life's great. I'm not doing anything that's popular. Not at all. Interesting about hearing more about how you feel about frequent injections of cypionate causing non-ideal endocrine adaptations for lack of contrast. The only way that I could explain it is in highlighting my experience as a coach on brain modulation for performance for business people. Because that's what I did before I started talking about TRT. My career was that. I'd get hired from business people all around the world, and like venture capitalists and startups in Silicon Valley. I don't even know how these people got my name. Probably YouTube, or their friends. And my job would be to make them perform at an accelerated rate cognitively for between 6 and 12 hours a day, because these guys had startups to build and businesses to run and all this shit. And what I learned in that time is that you couldn't give them, like, find a stack that hits really good and gives them insane productivity and makes their memory work better and gives them energy. You couldn't give them that same stack every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 days a week, because eventually the pronounced energy and speed of processing and memory IO improvements that they would get would fade. And I was posed the question in the very beginning. I adapted pretty quick on this. Like, why is this happening? Are they getting crappy sources? Are they dosing it wrong? Does the stuff fail to continue to work? And the answer was adaptation. I started looking further into the adaptation. If you flood the brain with acetylcholine, well, you know what the adaptation is? upregulation of acetylcholine clearance. Same thing happens with testosterone. You inject it super frequently. Guess what? You upregulate testosterone clearance. So for me, I guess I have the advantage over some of the folks that like haven't discovered this. Mainly coaches, TRT people on the web, YouTubers. And I've already seen CNS adaptation. The brain, it adapts. It adapts. At the same time, there's a lot of problems with daily injections if you're doing, any moderate or high dose of TRT because you're overlapping estradiol. Crushing SHBG consistently. Those are, I think, the reasons that infrequent injections tend to work. At the same time, what you have to think about is, number one, the ester cypionate was made for every 7-day injection, 5 to 7 days, 4 to 7 days, call it. Those are ideal. They work. So like that's like fucking point number one that we should not deviate from. How are we looking past the kinetics of this ester and attempting to inject it how it was never made to be injected? Why are we doing that? Number one. Number two, our bodies as natties respond to a pulsatile secretion of luteinizing hormone and a pulsatile, therefore, production of testosterone. It's not constant. It's more like a wavy thing like this. That's what our bodies respond better to, so that we don't upregulate homeostatic regulatory clearance mechanisms. And then all kinds of metabolite issues come about, like too much estrogen saturation at ERB, ERA receptors. Right? Again, going back to nootropics, you just constantly blast the cholinergic receptors, nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. They downregulate. They don't respond the same way. This same concept applies to TRT. Not for everybody. For people that can't do daily injections. Megatron Nemo, thanks for the super chat, brothers. When you say you can try to pin a little HCG between the 5th pins, pin on injection day and then pin like 2.5 days later is what I would say. This is only if you need more HCG, which would be driven by testicular cosmetic stuff. Usually you're fine with like a 200 IU injection on injection day of your every 5th day. Balls stay fine. Or you're sensing that you need more estradiol because your libido has gone a little south, right? Because it's a lot of androgens. And that sometimes happens. You do need to balance estrogen with the androgens a little bit. But typically, larger injections give you enough estradiol to keep that all in check. So you'd look at the 2.5 day, maybe a microdose, like 100 IU of HCG. Maybe do 200 on injection day, 100 IU in the middle, just to keep that signal there. But you only need that if you land in a place where you feel that your libido is gone, which would indicate estrogen is a little low for the androgen load. That's when you would need to do that. TRT plus HCG. Your test is 80 milligrams Monday and Thursday. Okay, so what, 160, 166 a week. HCG 125 by 5 units every day. I don't know what the 5 units is. Maybe how you have it reconstituted, you need 5 units on the insulin syringe. I feel quite good. What's your thoughts on this protocol? It's been 2 weeks. Hasn't been enough time, first of all, to really realize where you're going to be. But I don't see this being a huge problem because you get a nice trough and you get a break in between. From Monday to Thursday, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're injecting essentially on the 3rd day. But from Thursday to Monday, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You get 4th day, 4 days. That's wonderful. If you can make this work, and not everyone will, it might be too frequent based on how you metabolize testosterone. It might keep everything too stable. But if not, you're going to have a nice trough. And I think this is good. If you feel good and sexual function's good, definitely give this some time. Don't do anything. Cypionate does not work in a way which you can change the protocol frequently and be able to read the results accurately. If anything, if you change the protocol frequently with cypionate, it's going to confuse the shit out of you. And it's going to provoke you via things not being right after 1 week or 2 weeks to continue changing it. And then you end up in the PIND or the POND. The purgatory of never dialing in. The POND. It's a purgatory. You will stay there in hell forever if you constantly change things. So give this some time. Don't hire boluses cause E2 spikes. They do, but again, if we are not constantly exposed to aromatization, we are better. Right? So if you can peak up to 55, even 65, but then the aromatization doesn't fully stop, but it just reduces markedly, you stay in a great androgen-estrogen ratio. And whether the blood say, 45 at trough or not, your tissue distribution of estradiol gets a big long break. All right. That's why every 5th day or every 7 days is even more superior than like every 3.5 days. Because that accumulation rate is less. The estrogen can't just build upon itself or stay extremely steady state. It actually kind of just goes back down like that. So tissues get a break of it, meaning estrogen receptor alpha, estrogen receptor beta, they get a break from estradiol binding and gene expression. So you're just less estrogenic when you do boluses, even though you peak initially higher. That's what works. You ever seen a case of PFS that can't be fixed with a good TRT protocol? No, I have not seen one. No, I've seen guys give up, like I had a guy, it was probably like 3 years ago, had PFS, gave up after 3 weeks. I've seen that. I've seen people not comply, Most of my coaching goes very well if I've got people who are well-intentioned and who want to follow instructions and just want to fucking get better. But, some of them will, like I ask people, I need you to keep me in the loop with like these details 3 times a week. And I won't hear from them for 2 months. And I'll reach out, but I can't chase people forever. Those are the people that don't get better, obviously. People that are on board and serious it's about being serious about your recovery. It's like if I hired anyone, like one of the things I'm going to do sometime soon is hire a marketing company for Cortex Labs. I'm going to do everything they tell me to do, and I'm going to stay in constant contact with them and supply them with what they need to do their job. So people that don't do that will never, fix anything. But the people that do, which is more often than not, the majority of people that come to me for coaching, it's a serious thing. I'm taking a lot of time to make sure that you can find a forever protocol and that your quality of life is better and your libido is back. So, most people take that seriously to stay engaged and provide me with the necessary updates that I need. Protocols 120 enanthate every 4th day. Okay, that's not bad. 100 of Primo every 3rd day. What day should HCG be injected? Can't tell you because I really don't know what is happening here. Yeah. I don't know what your effects are, what your bloods say. I don't know if you necessarily even need the Primo for estrogen control. And so I can't quite give you a protocol. If you want to fill those gaps in and do like a $50 super chat, that'll let you fit a lot of those gaps in. Please do that so we can discuss. Why did I switch my protocol from 175 doing 50 every other day to 150 every 5th day? Anabolism. That's mostly it. I don't know if it's adaptation of testosterone over time, but even on 175, just doing the every other day injections, like my sexual function was good. I landed at 42 estradiol and 15, 1200 total test there. And that's kind of like where I stayed. Like I troughed a little bit every other day. You trough like a tad. And the sexual function was good for me personally. Like I've not really ever had a problem other than daily injections with frequent injections. Again, that's why my experience means nothing compared to, the cohort of people I've worked with. A lot of people cannot tolerate that. They have crappy sexual function. But on 175, doing every other day injections, I just wasn't getting the anabolism. It is summertime. I'd been on cream for a long time. Not particularly anabolic. And I considered running a cycle, but I thought to myself, hey, I'll dial this in. It'll be a lot more androgens at once. So let me see what it's going to do to my body. Libido, insanely high. Erection quality, unchanged. Unchanged. I am due for bloods in 2 weeks, so I'll go look at those and see what the hell's going on. But I feel fucking incredible. It's mostly for anabolism. That's really actually the singular thing. Used to advocate long esters frequent injections. I have not advocated long ester frequent injections. You need to understand the context in which I may have suggested that, i.e. lower doses of long esters. That's where frequent injections work. So no, I never indicated or said that long esters, you should do frequent injections. You should scour the YouTube channel. Because as far as 2.5, 3 years back, I was saying, inject more at once. If, and this is the other problem with a lot of the commenters, you guys don't listen to my conditional logic. If someone was giving you advice and they specifically said, if you're in this situation, then do this, they gave you if-then clauses. And you didn't listen to that, and you only heard do this, you're doing yourself a massive injustice. So this is a case of not listening to when I say do frequent injections. First of all, what's the dose? Lower doses are the only things that typically work. And then you lack anabolism. But also the context. It's not for everyone. If this, do this. Like programming language. Is there a caveat or asterisk regarding the frequency of injections for people who have constitutionally low SHBG or is SHBG? I haven't seen it be the hugest problem, but the thing that I do see is that the more frequent you're putting testosterone in your body, the lower that SHBG is going to go. And I see a strong correlation in bloods and symptoms between like really low end, constantly crushed SHBG and sexual dysfunction. Whereas if a SHBG can go to a pretty healthy place, not super high, but like 20, 25, the sexual function tends to be a lot better. And it's probably via less clearance of androgens. Again, lower your SHBG, presumably you clear androgens faster from the system. And again, attributed to these other things like CNS adaptation. You know, if people are doing less frequent injections, the SHBG is going to be a little higher. The central nervous system doesn't adapt as much to that signal because it's not constant, right? Again, the nootropics field taught me consistency in one like pharmacokinetic state or the other is what leads to a downregulation of the response. It's basically the bottom line. Johnny Cook feels like he keeps circling around being dialed in, but it seems going below 200 milligrams or over 225 drops libido. Would this be more of estradiol or DHT going out of range? What it probably, first of all, it depends on the frequency of your injection. So I would need to know what that is to give you good advice here. But if you lose your libido on 225 of test, it's not that estrogen, like estrogen is up there, but it probably means the estrogen milieu is not enough to support libido. Because you do need the estrogen. Like take an AI. I mean, you're going to lose your libido. Like if especially if the dose is too high and it crushes it, you're going to lose it. Estrogen does need to be present. Like you almost want to just get it in and get it out. Hey, estrogen, do your job regarding regulating the neurochemistry specifically of libido, and then get the fuck out of here. Don't stick around because then you're going to muck everything up and I'm going to lose my sensation and my erections. All I need you to do is this one job and then you just back off and let the androgens take care of the rest of it. So, you know, if you're in an imbalance in this regard, same thing happens if people take too much DHT. Libido goes south. And if you're especially like an under converter to estradiol, it's going to be pretty hard for you. You need to balance that out with HCG and have enough estrogen infusion via the HCG to balance that out. Under aromatizers run into this kind of crap where they go too high and libido drops. It's not because estrogen's too high. It's because it's not really in the right ratio for your androgens. And, you know, DHT blocks estrogen at the gene expression level. So too much DHT can do that. But, you know, if you're I don't know about going below 200. Yeah, it's all about frequency probably in this case, as well as what your HCG dose is too. You know, I don't even see that you have that, so I can't really help you there, but you got to look at those variables. So with cream, do you believe there's enough peak and trough if you only apply once a day to mimic the benefits of less frequent injections? Yes. Yes, I do, and that typically works. But if it isn't working for people, it's another one of those, you know, too frequent application kind of thing. Now, with cream, you could do the 200 milligram stuff, like 5-6 clicks every other day, and then you would get a variation which makes more sense. You'd get a good variation. But so many nuanced dynamics go into how you dial in or don't dial in on cream. It's very DHT centric. So for some people, they just end up with way too low estrogen. For some people, the 30 estradiol is perfect. It's so person dependent that I can't give general advice on it. But yes, once daily in the morning is a better mimicker of like infrequent injections, if you will. You might want to just get crazy and do 5-6 clicks of the 300 milligram cream every other day and see how you respond to that. That'd be a really interesting experiment to run. With regard to less frequent dosing, would you inject prop every 3 days to be similar to injecting? Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, you could do every other day with prop as well. You can do daily if it works for you. But as I described to like another user earlier, 80 to 100 every third day, maybe 120, 150 every fourth day with prop is going to mimic those kinetics. Yeah, and it's going to be pretty fucking good. And prop is so forgiving that it's like you don't get, never did I ever feel any of the overstimulation or weird side effects associated with long esters on prop. Like I could inject like a 70 milligram bolus, 100 milligram bolus of prop, and all I'd feel is amazing. Because it's just clean testosterone, man. Love Yezer. Currently on 150, so you're doing 75 every 3.5 days. Sub-Q though, 150 IU of HCG daily, 25 or 50 of Proviron. Sometimes when the injection time is in the late afternoon, I end up waking around 4 a.m. next morning with no sleep. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the injection a little too late, that's probably why. But those kind of things tend to go away. Yeah, tend to go away. Now, I don't know if you're on 300 or if you're on 75 each injection. It looks like you're on 75. If you're on 300, that's probably why. Otherwise, look, Proviron, as another user in the comments said, it's pretty stimulatory, dude. And if you're not used to it, and especially in the beginning of dosing Proviron, it can make you feel like a little cranked. Like Cranked, the movie with Jason Statham. Cranked, where he's all fucking cranked up, bro. That can happen. Estrogen sits around 60 at 200 milligram per milliliter, and DHT goes to about 100. Okay. And you're again circling to trying to dial in. Is it again? I need your frequency. Please put it in super chat. Ken P, thanks for watching, brother. Thanks for all you do. In a PFS case, started doing daily dose of 2% test cream. 2%. So, I mean, what's that? A 25 mil? No. That's like a 10 milligram dose per application. That's a very low concentration. How long did it take to feel changes? I wouldn't do the 500 IU of HCG at once. I think you need a far better protocol, brother. Yeah. First of all, 2% cream is so little concentration. We're usually working with 10 or 20%. The 20% is 200 milligram per milliliter cream, 50 milligrams per application per click. And the 100 milligram cream is 25 milligrams of testosterone per click. Those are where you want to be with cream. Either one of those you can make work. But I wouldn't be at a 2% test cream. I don't know who gave you that or who thought that was a good idea, but that's not a great idea. That's a bad idea. Yeah. Go on the 100 or 200 milligram stuff. Get the cream course, try the protocols. If for some reason that fails, it means your body is going to be equipped better for long esters in infrequent capacity. Is the PFS intensive 4-month package still available or is it discontinued? Right now, I believe that is down because we just kind of bulked coaching or PFS into coaching. For 3 months or 6 months, we will target PFS symptoms. Yeah. Because, I mean, despite people thinking PFS is like this fringe, mysterious, unknown condition, a lot of people on TRT, if they have a bad protocol end up with PFS symptoms. Same thing, right? Over aromatizing, under converting to DHT, not having a healthy balance, not having enough androgens. The same kind of things apply. Sexual muting, libido muting, sensation muting, erection quality problems, full-blown ED, things like that. So it's just grouped into coaching now. If you want a book, man, use the code in the description. It will save you thousands of bucks. I've gotten the best sleep in my life on Test C. Is it a common experience? It really all depends. I mean, initially with Test C for me at 200 a week, I started doing, and I was doing daily injections initially. I was getting insomnia. Now I got over that. The reason people have disruptions in sleep and insomnia on Cypionate is an adjustment period. But like, if you're responding really favorably because you have the right dose and the right protocol to Cypionate, you're just going to be amazing, The adaptation is pretty crazy because when I went on 560 a week, this was last year, to do a cycle for like 3 months, I slept fine. I didn't have any of that extra stimulation. I had worked that shit out of my body in the first, year of TRT. It was really like the first 6 months on and off. I had those kinds of side effects, and then it went away. I don't know what to attribute that to. I mean, I've seen bodybuilders, Chase Irons, great example. This guy runs grams a gear, grams a test, no acne. It just went away over time. It just goes away. So the fact that you start, with Cypionate and you get great sleep, that's phenomenal. That means the rest of your experience with Cypionate is going to be great. Masteron builds muscle. Yeah, it hardens your muscles via reducing subcutaneous tissue, or water under the tissue. But it is also an anabolic compound, right? Clears a lot less from your system than DHT, so it gets to stick around and trigger in the skeletal tissue and the muscle tissue some enhanced anabolism and some decreases in catabolism. Yeah, Masteron's anabolic. I mean, it's not as anabolic as Primobolan in my experience and research, and it's certainly not as anabolic as Anavar. Thank you, brother. Popping in, dude. Hope you have a great weekend. Brother, I don't know what you're up to, but I hope it's nice where you're at. It's beautiful today. Today will be a really nice day where I'm at, so I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm probably going to do like an hour walk. I went to the gym yesterday, worked chest, and ran, so I'm going to go walk for an hour with some headphones. Maybe feed a couple squirrels or something. I don't know. How did I manage estrogen on the 500 milligram cycle? Oromacin. I had gotten up to 12 milligrams, 12 and a half milligrams every 7 days or something. It was just enough. The libido erections weren't perfect, but they were workable. I was able to have sex. That's all I really cared about. Yeah. So if somebody was pinning every other day and wanted to try less frequent injections, would you gradually spread the frequency or dosing, or just pick a day to switch over to the larger dose, less frequent dose? If I were you, I would go on Steroid Plotter and plot it out to where you reach the new steady state faster. And it won't be a steady state. Like, it won't be like this. It'll be like this. But you end up reaching those blood numbers faster, which in this case probably means that you take 5 to 7 days off of the every other day injection, and then you start, the 120 every 5th day, or 150 every 5th day, or 200 a week, or something like that. That's what I would suggest. I'm not a fan of Sustanon. I just don't have a lot of experience with it because it's largely prescribed elsewhere, and it's just not prescribed a lot. Now, have I dialed people in on Sustanon? Yeah, maybe a few years back, a couple. But it so doesn't dominate the TRT landscape in terms of esters that we just don't really end up using it a lot. Don't really end up using it. I mean, it's the same thing with like Libido. Libido. People just generally don't use Libido. But I'll tell you what. In my years as a coach, I've seen a lot of people that do really well on Libido. They're injecting like once every 10 weeks or something. And they're peaking insane. The test moves real slow, and then it goes right, back down, but real slow. And those guys have insane fucking libido and everything. Yeah, trying to mimic that You can't really do that with Cypionate, but you could try like 300 once every 12 days, or 400 every 2 weeks, something like that. Do I think that 350 of Test, 100 of Masteron, and 100 of Primo is better than 500 Test and Arimidex? It depends on what you're asking. Better for what? Better for what? Giving you energy to do your dishes? I mean, you got to be a little more clear with me, bro. I think that, as Vigorous Steve has said, if you want to be really general about it, that using DHT derivatives to control estradiol is generally better than using AIs, right? Because they're less crappy on your lipids, first of all, and you get anabolism. You get a twofer. That makes it generally better, in my opinion. Yeah. Like it's generally better. But, then you got to be context specific, getting into the details of what might be going on in the protocol, what your results are. You then have to choose selectively whether or not you want to use a Arimidex or Primo and Masteron. I think on 500 a test, you're going to get gains either way. And you should have libido too if you can manage the rest of the protocol, namely the estradiol. Yeah. And the HCG. But there's no question. The higher you go past like 250 of test, that's when it becomes harder to manage sexual function. It can be done, but it becomes harder at that level. It becomes a lot harder. You've got to employ all the strategies, and you're going to have to test things out, experiment with shit, experiment with aromasin at the higher doses, experiment with this, and just try to figure out what works better for you, what ends up working better. That is the bottom line. Brothers in Test, 50% off coaching right now. That is 3 and 6 month coaching. The discount code for that is in the description of this video, as well as on recent videos in the description. So you can instantly find that code, add whatever coaching you want to your cart, 3 or 6 month program. Use that code. It's 50 now, 50, and then the word now, all one word, and watch thousands of dollars come off the coaching packages you've been wanting to book, but now you can book. Do that, livecortex.com. Brothers, I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to go on a big, long 1 hour walk, and hopefully I'm going to find a squirrel to fucking feed. Some pretzels and water. I hope so. Content this week's look forward to it. I'm going to do for the next several weeks, just to see how this affects the metrics of the YouTube channel, pretty much everyday content, like Monday through Thursday, maybe take Friday off and just do everyday content with a little less editing, but more captions and things like that, and zooms and obviously jump cuts. So we're going to see how that works. Means you're going to see more of me this week. So look forward to that. Hope you're looking forward to seeing more of this guy, because I'm looking forward to seeing you, bro. I'll see you then. Take care. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Peace. Later. Oh, yeah. This thing's still just...